Well, what's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and welcome to another episode of the People's Questions, where I answer all the awesome questions that you guys have sent me this past week. Before I begin, I would just like to thank all of you guys for sending your awesome questions, and hopefully when you see this video, you will stay tuned later today because I will be uploading my 6th year anniversary video celebrating the creation of the 3TR channel, which has been made incredibly possible because of all of you. We got a pretty solid collection of questions from mainly all regulars. I think there's maybe one newbie here, so that should keep it pretty simple. And before I begin, if there was a question, again, that you don't hear in this video, please check the comment section of the last video because chances are it was answered there. We're starting off real simple with the first question coming from Virgil, the son of Sparta. You want to know, who do I think is the most evil character or villain in the Resident Evil series without Spencer or Wesker? Well, Virgil, you kind of got me in a bit of a box because, you know, Wesker has had a pretty serious influence on most of these games. But if I could pick one character, I'm going to go with Alexia Ashford. The reason I would go with her is because this girl was already fucked up as a child, and she created, you know, she pretty much was pretty significant in the creation of the Veronica virus. And this girl was so fucked up that her own father was threatened by her, and her obsession with the Veronica virus, the point where she was experimenting on her own body. And then when she finally awoke from like her 10-year coma, she immediately killed her brother. So she didn't even have really much loyalty to her own family. And this was someone that even Wesker thought was a significant threat. And that's and as far as I'm concerned, outside of Chris, that's the only antagonist that has ever significantly threatened Wesker. So I mean, that's pretty significant. So I would probably go with Alexia Ashford as being the most evil character outside of Wesker and Spencer. The next question comes from Santo Scarpino. You want to know, if Nero actually met Virgil, would they get along? I don't think Virgil... That's weird. I don't think Virgil would be all that interested in Nero. I mean, I'm a little bit... I know that in some official sources, they do say that Nero is Virgil's son, but it just seems so weird as for when Nero could have been conceived, because Virgil has an open hatred towards humans. He doesn't like humans at all, so I can't imagine why he would want to procreate with a human woman. I mean, there was a tiny scene in the beginning of Devil May Cry 4 where he looks at this woman, but that doesn't really say much. I would really like if Capcom went into specific details as for when Virgil could have conceived or helped conceive a child, because he just doesn't seem all that interested in humans. So if he were to meet Nero and he was actually his son, I think he would be like, wow, I didn't really mean to have a kid and I don't really care. I mean, if anyone would be procreating with anyone, it would be Dante. I'm surprised he doesn't have a whole bunch of half-demon babies by now already. So yeah, I just don't think Virgil would be all that interested. It would be like, oh, you were a mistake. I don't know, maybe I was drunk one night and I had a one-night stand with this one woman that I can't even remember who it was. It would just be a little bit awkward. Next question comes from Cassie J. Williams. You want to know, what is my favorite Keyblade from the Kingdom Hearts series? Well, Cassie J. Williams, I actually own a replica of my favorite Keyblade of all time, and it just so happens to be the classic Kingdom Keyblade. Yeah, gotta go with the original. You see, the thing that kind of draws me off the other Keyblades is that they're all theme class, but this one is simply universal. Everyone could use it. This is for anyone. It's the classic. You can't really go wrong with that. And several people have been seen using this type of Keyblade, and I kind of like that. It's a Keyblade that I could wield, you could wield, anyone could wield it. So the fact that it's not specifically themed for any one world or any one character makes it my all-time favorite Keyblade. Sometimes it's best to go simple. So, with that out of the way, next question comes from Matt Cruz. You want to know, if I could really relive any moment in my life, what would it be and why? Any moment. That's a tough one. If I could relive any moment. Okay, okay, yeah, I can think of one. Uh, this moment was, I don't know, maybe almost like 20 years ago. Um, when I was a kid, me and my brother would hang out a lot, and there was this. We were living in an apartment at the time, and there was this game called Math Blaster. I'm not sure if you guys remember this, and you know, my dad had this gigantic computer chair, and the both of us could fit in it. And as we're playing Math Blaster, as we would go on these playing these space games, we would be spinning the chair around, and it would just be all kinds of fun. The reason I would pick that memory above just about anything is because it's one of the few memories that I would want to keep intact. Any other memory I can think of in that kind of position, I would want to be put in that position so I could go and change something. But that's one of the few memories that is a period in my life where I was completely happy. I didn't have to worry about adult problems. I didn't have to worry about hormones. I didn't have to worry about any of the problems that one would face when growing up. When you're a kid and you're living a good life and you have a good family and everything's just working out, the world seems like the most wonderful place. And even a little experience about spinning a gigantic computer chair while playing games that are supposed to teach you math can just seem like such an amazing experience. And being able to share that experience with someone who is still in your life just makes it all the more special. So that's why I would probably want to relive that moment, just to relive it, not to even be interested in changing anything. Next question. Okay, this one's a hard one, so I'm probably gonna butcher it, so I apologize. But Tenri Nato, I hope I said that right. Really bad with names. But you want to know, can I think of any movies from my childhood that I think are better now through adult eyes? Yes. The original Star Wars. I still think to this day that they are the most overrated movies of all time, but it's only because I didn't grow up loving them. You have to understand, I grew up with the prequels, and even as I grew up, I openly acknowledged the problems with episodes 1 and 2. I still think that 3 is by far my favorite Star Wars movie, and without question, one of the top 10 favorite movies I've ever seen of all time. But you have to remember, as a kid, I was just not interested in classic Star Wars. I thought that Luke Skywalker was a bitch. I thought Han Solo was an asshole. I thought that Darth Vader was a really cheap Power Rangers villain. I don't know why the hell Princess Leia had cinnamon buns attached to her head. I mean, these are legitimately the questions I was asking as a child. Now, I obviously wasn't using any foul language, but I just didn't understand as a child what was the big thing about Star Wars. It just seemed so old, outdated. I had seen cooler things. But after going through the prequels and then kind of understanding that story, it made me go back, watch the original Star Wars, and now with adult eyes, I could kind of see what made those movies so interesting. I still think they're overrated. I still don't think they're the big masterpiece trilogy that a lot of people like to think they are. But I do openly acknowledge why so many people cherish them so much, and I do acknowledge them as good movies. Not amazing, not masterpieces, but good, entertaining movies. Next question comes from, okay, I believe this is the only newbie of the episode. Cassie, or like Cash-ish Box I'm sorry, terrible with names. You want to know, do I agree with some of the stuff that Senator Armstrong said? For those of you that don't know who Senator Armstrong is, basically he's like the primary antagonist in the Metal Gear Rising game. And at the end, when he's beating the crap out of Raiden, he goes on this like little speech kind of acknowledging how the world works. And the problem with agreeing with things that Armstrong said is that most of those things, to me, don't seem relevant in our world. That seems relevant in the world of Metal Gear because of how things played out in history. Now, certainly there are a couple of things that were similar, but the fact is that the Metal Gear world at that point in the timeline is so drastically different than how it is right now in the real world. There's just a lot of things that he said that I just don't agree with. They don't really apply to our world, or at least in my opinion, they don't apply. So maybe if I was living in that world, sure, I would agree with some of his points, but in the real world here, no, I don't agree. Next question comes from the Immortal Superman, and you wanted to know, what are my speculations regarding Kojima's new game Death Stranding? I mean, your speculation on monsters and story and characters and symbolisms, the babies, the pollution, and also your speculation on if it connects to Silent Hill in any way. You know, to be honest, Immortal, I don't really like to think much about the direction that certain game directors go, because after so many years of watching what their work is, I kind of like to wait until the final product is out, because I know this is a director I can trust. I mean, it's the same thing with Christopher Nolan films. Regardless of what type of movie he wants to do, history has taught me that whatever project he wants to work with, I'm guaranteed something of high quality. And I don't need to ask a lot of questions. I like to kind of go in as blind as possible. And I'm doing the same thing with Death Stranding. I have no idea what this story is going to be. This story just looks weird. The less I know going into this game, the better. This guy has created my all-time favorite video game franchise of all time. It's just saying that Konami has decided to fuck it up with Metal Gear Survive and then that shit that they spit out with MGS5. But now that he is no longer chained to the Metal Gear Solid franchise, he can now create his own work, and that is what I'm interested in most. So I don't really like to speculate too much. All I know is I can trust Kojima, and I can't wait to get my hands on this game when it comes out. I'm sure it'll be something really special. Next question comes from Lucerna, and you want to know, do I like Sephiroth's design in Kingdom Hearts? Yes, I like his designs in Kingdom Hearts. In fact, that interpretation of Sephiroth is my favorite version of Sephiroth. I don't really like Sephiroth too much in the official canon because he gets built up so much, like he's this ultimate badass, and he is by far like one of the easiest bosses I've ever dealt with. It's almost rather pathetic. So yeah, I do like the variation of Sephiroth design-wise and character-wise as he's presented in Kingdom Hearts. And the last question comes from Kenny Cosmo, sorry. They want to know, what is my opinion on Anakin and Padme's relationship throughout the Clone Wars? Would it make Anakin better stabled if he never felt such tender love for one another? Well, the problem with Anakin is that it's not so much that he didn't have a stable relationship. The problem is that he has a difficulty with attachments, which is kind of one of the big things that they teach you as a Jedi initiative to try to not develop. And he was just too clingy. He could not accept loss. And so I think the fact that perhaps during the Clone Wars they really didn't spend too much time. I mean, the thing with the whole Padme and Anakin thing was I think they seriously rushed into this way too fast, and I mean that's like one of the biggest problems I have with their relationship in a whole. I don't believe in that whole love at first sight thing, because as far as I was concerned, when I saw the films and the way I was depicting it in the books, I don't really think Padme had any serious fascination with Anakin at first. I mean, maybe she was just surprised that he was kind of hot. I mean, the way I saw it was, okay, as a child, this is the first like hot girl I've seen that's not from this planet, and obviously around that age your hormones might start kicking in a little bit, but they haven't quite blasted off just yet. So you go 10 years later, he's 19, he's probably a virgin, his hormones are pulling him in 100 different directions, and Padme's looking kind of hot. It's like, oh wow, I've thought about this. I just think I think they rushed into this way too soon without spending a good amount of time to actually get to know each other, and that's never a good thing. Relationships like that, when you don't really have a lot of time to get to know the person in depth, never seem to last. And the fact that Anakin was just so controlling was toxic. I think the relationship was doomed to fail or end in tragedy sooner or later. It's just the fact that Anakin was so easily manipulated because of his own fears that it completely fell apart. So No, I honestly don't think it could have been more stable. In fact, I think if they had actually experienced those moments in terms of the, quote, tender love, I think it would have made it even worse when Anakin finally went to the dark side. I think it just would have been just dramatically worse. And with that, those are all the questions that you guys have sent me for this episode. I'd like to thank all of you guys for making this episode possible with your questions. If you guys have any more questions you would like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. Make sure to get them into me before next Wednesday before I start filming this episode. And remember, keep your eyes open for later on this day because I will be uploading another video which has a lot of information that you guys might want to know about the channel moving forward. So with that out of the way, I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.